there, everyone. Welcome. It is another edition of your midday love break. Let's get my microphone out of my hair so you guys can hear me. Oh, happy Wednesday to everyone who's joining us. We have a very special Surviving the Holidays series this time. So if you caught last week's edition, we talked all about surviving the holidays and getting through visits at Thanksgiving and at, anything, Christmas, Hanukkah, these different holidays coming up with your in-laws. So that was last week's. If you guys missed it, hop on over and make sure to check it out. And this week, we are talking about a really powerful, heartbreaking, and sometimes really chaotic topic. We're talking about addiction. And we're talking about addiction and how to survive the holidays. So as you're listening, as you're coming on, I just want to say that this really, truly is for anyone who is personally struggling with any kind of addiction. And for those who maybe you're married to someone who's struggling with addiction, maybe you're in a relationship, maybe a family member. This is for you. We're going to dive into some pretty important topics today. And I have a surprise for you guys. I have an expert who's here with me today. She is a dear friend and a dear colleague, and I'm going to introduce her in a moment. But I just want you guys to know that part of these midday love breaks that I bring to you every week, these are serious topics. These are challenges that people just like yourself in relationship are struggling with. And so when the holidays come around, these can seem even more intense than normal. So that's why I do these. I'm just kind of popping into the Facebook page to make sure that you guys can see me and hear me. So if you can see me and hear me okay, just give me some likes, give me some thumbs, give me some hearts since I am the love geek. I'd love to see some hearts from you guys. Ooh, Heather's here. Awesome. Okay, you guys. So for those of you who don't know me, or maybe this is your first time joining me, welcome. I'm Robyn D'Angelo. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Southern California. And as the happy couple expert, it's just been my passion and my goal in life to help couples and singles really, truly learn how to master the messiness of couplehood. Because if you're in a relationship and you're watching this, being married, being in a relationship, it's messy and it sucks sometimes. But it's also really, really worth the sacrifices. It's worth the hard times. So I'm just really glad to have you guys be here joining me live. And if you're watching the replay, thank you too, because this is really going to just add value and richness to your relationship. Because what we do here every week is I come on here, whether it's just myself or with an expert, and we talk about what can you do with this particular topic. And I give you tips and tools that you can put into play right away. So thank you for joining me. Some of you are on a lunch break right now if you're here on the West Coast. For those of you on the East Coast, it's about 3 o'clock. So I'm super excited to have you guys here. I'm going to bring on my expert in just a moment and have her kind of share a little bit about herself with you guys. And then we're going to just really dive into this topic. So I'm going to see if I can invite her. Okay. So I've sent an invitation to my expert. Can't wait for her to join us, you guys. This is going to be really, really exciting. Heather, I sent you an invitation. Let's see if you can join us and come on live. If you're having any issues, let me know, because today's topic is something that we definitely need to have an expert on here with me, just talking to you guys, giving you guys the tips and tools. And let's see if I can. Okay. All right, Heather, I've sent you an invitation. Let's see if it allows you to come on. Hopefully we don't have any issues. So I do want to say, you guys, so this is a topic that so many people struggle with, right? It's addiction. And when I talk about addiction, I talk about not just substances. We're not just talking about alcohol. We're not just talking about drugs. There's a lot of different ways that people struggle with addiction. There's a lot of different things that people struggle with addiction. So Heather Sequin, who's our expert that I'm trying to pull on here, Heather. So let me know if you are able to. Oh, it says for some reason that you can't join me onto this broadcast. So Heather, maybe if you can try from another device. I'm not quite sure what the deal is. Sometimes, Heather, if you have more than one device on at a time, you got to shut them all down and hop on with your phone with me. And if worst comes to worst, you guys, we've done this before where if there's like major tech issues, what I usually do is I'll hop off here and I'll go and I'll do a quick record with Heather of me kind of interviewing her, and then kind of see, and I'll post it for you guys. Let's see. It's not allowing me to ask you to come on, Heather. Let's see, maybe if you changed devices and hop back in here and let me know if that works. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about, when I talk about addiction, and like I said, it's not just substances and alcohol. That's the first thing most people think about. Because Heather is a licensed and certified sex addiction therapist, she comes from that background, but trust me, she's our addiction guru. Okay, Heather, let's try this again. Shoot, it's not allowing me to bring you on. I'm not quite sure why. It says can't bring you on to join. Strange. Okay, so you guys, we're gonna try a few more other things, and if this doesn't work out, because life happens, I'm gonna jump out of here and I'm going to record an interview with Heather, because this information is way too rich to not have you guys hearing this. You are the guru, Heather. Okay, I invited you. You should be popping on with me. It says that you declined it. I'm going to keep doing this until we get you on here.
There we go.
Ta-da!
All right. Yay. All right. Can you hear
I
me?
can totally hear you. It's technology, right? Like we work with it. So I'm so glad to have you
We did.
here.
Yay. Me too. I am really excited to be here and glad we finally were able to make it connect.
Totally. That's why I don't give up after time. You just never know, the Facebook apps. You just never know what happens. So, Heather, for those people that are, maybe short on time, I want to jump right in and I want you to share with them. Tell us a little bit about like who you are, why you got into this, and let's dive into surviving the holidays when addiction is part of your life.
Okay. So I, like Robyn, am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Southern California. I'm also a certified sex addiction therapist. And basically why I got into this is ultimately about shame.
Mm.
Because really any addiction is not about the addiction, it's about all of the underlying stuff. And we use our addiction to deal with all of that
Mm.
stuff. So I like dealing with the stuff.
Amazing.
And addiction just gets in the way. So that's why I do what I do.
That's a really great way to look at it. And I love that you talk about that addiction is never really about the addiction, right? It's about everything else. And that's a really big
Right.
message that I share with a lot of my couples, which is what you're fighting about is usually never what you're fighting about. So I love that this concept
Right.
works for this as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Um, I'm just kind of taking a look at my notes because I want to stay on point. And, Heather, when you and I were first talking about this, you had said, you really wanted to highlight the importance of those who are struggling with addiction, to know how to, number one, know how to advocate for themselves during the holidays. And then preparing them for like maybe their family's responses and how to deal with that. So can you kind of speak to that?
Sure. So I think that, addiction is hard enough on its
Yeah.
own, right? And just everyday life, the, you know, 350 days a year that we're not in the holidays are hard enough when you're in recovery. And so this season is particularly triggering for anyone who is in recovery because it's stressful for everybody. The holidays bring up so much stuff for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And so when you're in recovery and really wanting to keep your sobriety, being able to advocate for yourself with within yourself to recognize your own needs, and then with other people, the people that you care about, is so important, because if you don't advocate for yourself, you will relapse.
Yeah.
That's just being practical, you know? Um, and so it's really important to be able to know your own needs and then communicate those clearly and effectively, so that not only can you maintain your sobriety, but you can actually enjoy the holidays and maybe enjoy them for the first
Mm,
time, because before you were addicted.
totally. What would you say are some examples of someone struggling with addiction of any kind? And, use some examples so our listeners and watchers are understanding better. What are some examples of advocating for themselves if they're like, but what does that actually sound like?
Absolutely. I think that one of the top things is boundaries,
Yeah, yeah.
right? It's really all about boundaries. So say for example that, you're a recovering alcoholic, and, you grew up in a family that loves to make their own spiked eggnog every year. Well, part of advocating for yourself is being able to say, you know what, I'm really looking forward to spending time together as a family. I love all of our traditions. I want you to know that because I'm in
Mm,
recovery, it's really important for me to be in an environment where there isn't alcohol present. So, my request is that we can shift our tradition to being alcohol free. That's the first
yeah,
part, right? The what I need part. And then the part of the boundary that can be
yeah,
hard
yeah,
is saying, you know what, if you guys aren't okay with that, I want you to know that, I can spend this much time with you, and then I'm going to need to go to take care of myself and my recovery.
yeah,
And that's the part you were asking about, when families kind of lose
yeah,
their shit about, well, hey, wait a
yep,
minute, like, what do you mean you want to change the rules? And we've always done it this way. And just any kind of pushback that can come when you start to rock the boat.
totally.
Um, that's why it's so important for you to know that this really is advocacy. This isn't just like a nice request, or, you know, it's not
Right,
casual. This is really important. And maintaining your sobriety is crucial.
totally.
And in order to do that, you have to be able to know what you need and communicate that clearly. And the people that really love you and care about you will accommodate that. And if people aren't willing to do that, then you need to protect yourself by limiting your time or exposure to things that are going to be triggering for
What
you.
I appreciate about that message, though, is that you're not saying it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be like, that's it, I'm not coming. Which I think a lot of people get nervous of, like, what do you mean set a boundary and then just not show up? And how do we do this? I
Right.
love that you said you can set a boundary with limitations of, like, I'm going to be there. But I think part of the message, and correct me if I'm wrong, part of the message, though, when you're setting that boundary is to let them know that, like, this is a big I don't know if the word is risk, but an exposure for me to put myself around this because it's so triggering. Do you think that is important to include when people are trying to explain to their family members of why they're setting the boundary? What do you think?
It can
Okay.
be. I think it
Okay.
depends. If you have a family that's super supportive and is going to
Yeah.
understand you and be safe, then yes, by all means, communicate that, because they're going to have empathy and
Got
compassion
it.
for you. If you have a family that maybe is a little bit narcissistic
Mm,
or just not very compassionate, then the way I see it is you don't have to justify your boundary.
yeah.
It's okay for you to be able to say, this is what I need. And it's not about being selfish. It's not about putting a demand on somebody else. It's you knowing yourself, this is what I need to take care of
Yeah.
me. I would love to spend time with
Hmm.
you. I really do. But in order for me to spend time with you and take care of myself, this is the context that I need.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, that's okay. But to take care of myself, this is how I'm going to respond. Like you said, it's not all or
Yeah.
nothing. And so you can share with, family or friends or coworkers or whatever the case may
Right.
be, if you're comfortable doing that, but you don't have to feel obligated to justify your
I love
boundary.
that because I'm thinking about maybe someone who might be, two things came up for me. The person who is secretly or silently struggling with an addiction that they're not going to tell people, like, hey, or the loved one. For those that are watching, that might be a
Right.
spouse that's like, you know, I am not going to tell anyone about this. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed. But how do we still maintain relationships? How do we maintain traditions? Um,
Hmm.
so I'm just wondering, again, if you can just maybe give some more examples of, like, really advocating or setting that
Sure.
boundary when
Yeah.
this is an addiction that isn't public.
Exactly. I think that, again, boundaries are still
Mhm.
important, and this is where um, you don't have to share
Yeah.
everything. And especially when people kind of press you for like, wow, this is different, like what's bringing
Yep.
that up? You can say, this is just something I need. So, for example, let's say that, you've recently revealed to your spouse or they found out or something that you have a sex or porn
Mhm.
addiction, right? And you don't want to share that with your whole
Right.
family. Um, you can say, hey, we are so looking forward to spending time with you this year. We've been adopting some strategies for a healthier lifestyle. And so one of the things that we do for that is, we take a walk sometimes,
Mm.
when we just kind of need a break or to get some air, we go for a walk, or say it's a single person who doesn't have a spouse or whatever. Same
Yeah.
thing. Sometimes I need to make a phone call. I call a friend kind of on a daily basis as a check-in because I'm doing this coaching thing. You can use whatever words you want because recovery can be a type of coaching. And if you have a sponsor, they're basically a
Love it.
coach. So use whatever language you want to use that's comfortable for you. And then just like let your family know this is what I'm going to be doing because I'm pursuing this healthier lifestyle. So I just want you to know that I'm going to take some space, some time apart from our family gathering to take care of myself, and I'll be right back. And maybe that's, 20 or 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right? You know, recovery doesn't have to take up massive amounts of
Yeah.
time. But to make a quick check-in call with a sponsor or a fellow from, a 12-step meeting, that's totally okay. And you don't have to share everything about who you're calling and why
Right.
and what you talked
Right.
about. It's okay for you to say, you know what, it's actually a private conversation. So I'm not going to share about that, but I really appreciate your care and interest in my
Oh
life.
my gosh.
And leave it at
Yeah.
that. I mean, and you can even tell, I realize like I have an up talk to my voice. And I think that it's really important to keep that in mind. Like boundaries don't have to be
Right.
serious. This can be something super casual. Like, you know what? I'm actually just not going to talk about that right now, but I really appreciate
I
your
love
care
it.
about me. And then leave it at that.
No, totally. And I think, like you said, like boundary, even when you said boundary, you're like boundaries. Like that's kind of people's thoughts when they hear the word boundaries.
Yeah.
If they even
Yeah.
understand what that means. Some people, even watching and listening, might be like, well, what do you mean boundaries? What does that mean? And so, just to kind of educate you guys that are listening and tuning in, like boundaries is just, it's when you set up a limitation to take care of yourself. It's when you talk about what I will and will not tolerate. And again,
Mhm.
even saying that word, like I won't tolerate this, can feel really stiff and can feel almost like authoritative. But like Heather was saying, like this can be light. It's all in how you approach it, that typically determines how people will respond to you. What do you think, Heather? Totally.
Absolutely. I think I like to think of boundaries as, again, with the work that I do, they're like my favorite. I
Yeah.
love boundaries. Um, because people often see it as either controlling, like I'm going to tell you what you can and
Right.
can't do, or as a punishment,
Mm,
right? And that's not boundaries at all. Boundaries are me telling you how I need to be
yep.
treated and how I want to relate to other people. This is about
Yep.
me. If you want to relate to me in this way, awesome. Now you know who I am and how I
Totally.
operate. If you don't want to relate to me in that way, that's fine. That's your
Mm-hmm.
decision. But I want you to know that I can't have a relationship with you unless you're willing to relate to me in this
Totally.
way. Um, it's, I mean, I realize I'm making it sound simple, but I think it
Yeah.
is a lot more simple than we can make it out to be. And that's what makes it sound scary or like we're going to be, pushing up against, family roles or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And it makes it seem like it's a really big deal. But really, it's just about clarifying the way that we're going to communicate with each other and the way that we're going to treat other people too.
Yeah. For sure.
So I like to think of boundaries as like the stroke, kick, stroke approach to relationships. So it's like the stroke part is like, hey, I'm really looking forward to spending time with you. Or, I so appreciate how interested you are in my life and your care for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yep.
Stroke, right? And then it's like the kick part is, here's what I'm going to need, or here's the thing that you're doing that's really harmful for me that I would really like you to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stroke part is, kind of almost repeating,
Yeah.
bookending it with like, I'm looking forward to our relating healthier in this way or whatever
Yeah.
it is. And I realize that the language can sound kind of cheesy or weird, but get over it.
Exactly.
Like it's
Yeah.
worth it. It's
Totally.
worth
And
it.
something that I share with people all the time too is like sometimes, again, with the language, it might feel kind of formal, it might feel very kind of robotic, and this is what I need. But I mean, it just starts out that way until you start to develop your own comfort level and when you can organically set a boundary and ask for what you need. So I love that you said that. Like it can feel cheesy at first, like get over it, get used to it, and start to develop your own language that feels really good and comfortable. You know, when we first started talking again about, doing this segment and how important it is and even naming it when I said, keeping your sobriety and not secrets. And you said, oh, honesty is so key. And I want you to just talk a little bit about this when it comes to addiction, especially when we're getting through the holidays for people.
Yeah, I think that honesty is the gateway to
Mm,
intimacy.
that's gorgeous.
It's, if we want to be close to people, like really close to people, not just seem close to people, but really close to people, that's by being
Mm-hmm.
honest. If you think about it, usually your spouse is the person who knows you
Yeah,
best. Why? Because you can't hide anything from them. Or with addiction, you
right.
can for a period of time, which is why it's so traumatic, but that's a whole
Yeah,
nother,
right.
a whole nother
Right.
discussion. Um, but they see you and they know you, and um, when we take the risk of being
Yeah.
honest, that's when we build real intimacy.
Mm,
I say to my couples who come in where one partner has, engaged in some kind of infidelity or sexual addiction or whatever, I'm like, look, you've been terrified to let your partner see you as you really are. What would happen if he or she really knew you? All of your warts, everything that you've
yeah.
hidden, everything that you've been so ashamed of. What if they knew all of that about you and still chose
Mm,
you,
right.
you know? And like, how powerful would that be that you don't have to keep up
Yeah.
appearances, you don't have to perform? Like, that is intimacy.
Hmm.
Um, so it's also insanely
Right.
terrifying to a lot of
Right.
people,
Well, and
because what if they don't want me? What if
exactly,
they don't choose me?
exactly.
What if they need this presentation and I can't actually be my real
Mm,
self? Um, and that's again where boundaries come in terms of recovery with choosing to be around safe
right.
people who really want to know you, and setting a limitation around people who aren't willing
Mm,
to see you as you really are. No, that doesn't mean you have to cut them out of
right.
your life. You can just say like, hey, maybe this is someone that I see once a year for a short period of
Yeah.
time, and we keep it really light.
Yeah.
That's fine. But then this is how deeply I can connect with this person,
Mm,
and all of that starts with being honest and taking the risk,
totally.
which is kind of
Which
scary,
is
I
way
know.
scary. But again, all of this is connected to honesty, truth, and intimacy, which is typically what people that we're working with, our couples, are struggling with. So, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that. And then for the people that are listening that are the loved ones of someone who's struggling with an addiction, how can they really show up for them during the holidays and really support their recovery without sabotaging it? Because I imagine it can be pretty tough. There's some sticky situations that the holidays bring up.
For sure. I have the same advice whether you're an addict or the partner of an
Mm,
addict. Take care of yourself first.
okay.
Just the way that an addict needs to know these are my triggers and my vulnerabilities. I really think that everybody, whether you're an addict or not, we should all be aware of the situations that stress us out, that make us feel
Yes.
overwhelmed, whatever it is. Because we all, addiction is just a coping tool,
Mm,
honestly. And so, whether you're coping with drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling or
yeah.
spending or being codependent,
Yes.
right? Because codependency is a form of, trying to regain some kind of control of your life,
Hmm.
right? Um, no matter what it is, we all have these triggers and vulnerabilities that make us behave in these unhealthy
Right.
ways. So if we can be aware of ourselves and what is scary or stressful or anxiety provoking for us, then we can take care of ourselves,
Mm,
which means that we can be more present for a partner who might need some
got
support,
it.
right?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you got to take care of
Mm,
yourself. And then second, you got to do it together.
mm,
You got to have a real conversation together as a
yep.
couple to talk through, what are our boundaries,
Love it.
right? And does that mean like we're going to tell our family, this is how long we're going to stay, or we're going to go for a walk together, or one of the things I said, I actually wrote a blog, by the way,
Yay.
specifically for this
Oh,
conversation. So I have like a follow up for
perfect.
like supportive tips for all of what we're
I'm
talking
so
about.
glad.
One of the things I said is that sometimes you need to not tell your family things.
Hmm.
And that can be really hard for a partner who's in
Yeah.
pain because they want support and they might want to reach out to their family. But it needs to be in agreement with the person who's addicted,
Right.
because you can't take things back. Once your family knows certain things, they're always going to know that. And then if you decide to stay with your addicted partner, they might judge
Mm-hmm.
you for staying,
Absolutely.
right? The whole like scarlet letter
Yes.
thing, right? Like, why would she stay?
Right.
So, and I'm not saying that you should be secretive or live in denial, but be wise about who you're going to share what
Yeah.
with. And it's okay, again, for you to say to your family, we're going to stay for this long. Or, you know what, we're not comfortable talking about that right now, but we're so glad to be here and let's change the topic. And
Totally.
again, not in an elusive way, but in a firm but gentle, boundaried
Love
way.
it. Love it. So you are, it's kind of like last week I talked about like visiting the in-laws, and I said before you even get there to create what I called like the PIC plan, which is your partner in crime plan, right? Like we are partners in crime. Like what are
Mm,
we going to do to ensure, like, do we have this
yeah.
secret word when we're like, okay, marshmallow, peace, it's time to go. Like we need to get out of here. Like, do we have a, right? So I hear you saying like create your partner in crime plan. Like you guys are in this together. If
Yeah.
you're deciding to show up to holiday parties, if you're deciding to show up to family or have people over, like what's
Mm-hmm.
our agreement around this? If I do need to leave, have the conversation. So I so appreciate that. I
Yeah.
so appreciate that. But what about for I'm just thinking about holiday parties and maybe someone who's in recovery is doing things to take care of themselves, and the partner's like, what the hell was that? What is going on? Or might be confused by that. What do you
Yes.
think?
Yes. That was another thing I wrote about
Oh,
this,
good.
right? I think a lot of times in the holidays, because there's just so
Yeah,
much going on, it can feel so
totally.
chaotic, and it might look like your addicted partner is relapsing or that they're slipping,
Oh, okay.
right? Because, are you familiar? You're familiar with Dan Siegel's hand
Yes,
brain, right?
yes.
Freaking love the hand
Show
brain.
everyone, show everyone, because people,
So,
yeah,
okay, so if your whole brain's like this, right? So you've got your brain stem, your breathing and your heart rate and all that stuff, and then you've got your limbic system, your emotional brain here, and then you've got your cerebral cortex, your thinking brain, right? So when everything's fine, you've got your thinking brain. You can communicate, you can problem solve, you can
yeah.
empathize,
Make
right?
decisions.
But when make decisions, but when the shit
Yeah,
hits the fan, you do this and everything is coming from your
yeah,
emotional brain and you are in
yeah.
survival mode. So, everything in you is saying, I don't care what it takes. I don't care about the collateral damage because I'm not thinking, because thinking
Yep.
is here,
You're feeling.
right? Just get me out of this however possible. So that might mean running away. It might mean fighting. It might mean freezing and shutting down. It means a lot of things. So when your addicted partner is just trying to survive the holidays, they are probably going to be here. And so you need to recognize that they might not be acting out, but it might look like they're going to be acting
Right.
out. And so, again, that's where communication is so important because they might need you to recognize that, okay, they're just in survival mode. They're in this part of their
Yeah.
brain. They need to go do some self soothing so that they can get their whole brain back.
Wow.
And again, the challenge for partners is that they're in that part of their brain
Right.
too. So then you have two people who are like this and who are relating to each other like 3 or 4 year
Mm.
olds because they're both triggered and freaked out. And so that's why self care is so
Yeah,
important. That's why planning is so
totally.
important. That's why advocating for yourself is so
Yes.
important because you have to be able to get that whole brain back because nothing good happens in this
No,
part of your brain.
no, no. And I so appreciate you walking us through that, because I know there's
Yeah.
there's so many of us that first of all, it happens to us and we're like, what the heck? Or it happens to our partners and we're like, why are they losing their mind right now? This is ridiculous. Why are they choosing to be fill in the blank, such a jerk, right? Why are they choosing to be? And so I
Right.
love that you said, like, when you're in this part of the brain, there's no choice.
Not a
No,
choice.
it's
Yep.
literally just response, responding, right? That's all it is.
Yep.
It's survival. So thank you for walking
Yep.
through that. So if someone is watching this right now and they're like, okay, so I'm not necessarily in recovery, but clearly I know I struggle with some things that are really not helping my life, that are really not helping maybe my relationships. What do they need to
Mhm.
avoid during the holiday season?
Ah, yes, you asked me that question and I had to think about it. I'm
Mm,
like, man, what should you avoid? People pleasing.
say more.
I think that people pleasing is kind of at the root of all addictions.
Okay.
That you know, with how the number of addicts that I've seen, at their core, they're really codependent
Okay.
and they just want people to like them. They want to be accepted. You know, the speaking as a sex addiction therapist, right? There's four core beliefs of a sex addict, right? I'm basically a bad, unworthy
Mm,
person. No one would love me as I
mm,
am. Because no one loves me as I am, my needs won't get met unless I take care of it myself. Sex is my most important need,
mm.
right? So, you know, those first three are across the board. You know, the last need might be, you know, drugs or alcohol or gambling or
Right.
whatever it is, you know. Um, so at that core is the desire for love and
Yeah.
belonging.
Yep.
You know, like I'm a bad, unworthy person. So then I can't show my real self to anybody,
Yeah.
right? So then it's all about people pleasing. It's about giving you whatever you need to like
Mm,
me, you know. So in terms of what to
yeah.
avoid, I would say be aware of your tendency or your compulsion to please
What
other
would that
people.
look like, Heather? What
Um,
are examples of people pleasing of others people pleasing? What does that look like? If someone's like, well, I don't do that, do I?
yeah. Um, I think when you find yourself making a commitment that you didn't really think through,
Mm,
right? So like someone asks you a question and you immediately say, "Yeah, sure." And then after the fact you're like, "Oh crap, how am I going to fit that into my day?" Or, "Oh shoot, I double booked
hmm.
myself." Or, you know, you find yourself scrambling or your schedule's too full or you're emotionally stressed out or you notice
I was gonna say,
resentment.
or you just
Resentment is
don't
a
want to, right? You're
huge,
like, "Shit, I really
yeah,
didn't want to
exactly.
do that."
Huge
Yeah.
indicator that you're people pleasing.
Mm,
Um, so no matter what your addiction is, I would encourage you to just be aware of, you know, am I doing this for myself? Is this really something that
mm,
I want to do? Or do I feel obligated, right? Or do I feel pressured? You know, is this just something that's expected of me? And so I'm just trying to live up to this
right.
expectation as opposed to, you know, oh yeah, I really want to do
Right.
this. And that can be really hard because, you know, in a lot of ways we live in an inauthentic
Yeah.
culture, so we're shifting, right? There's a huge cultural
Totally.
shift to being more
Yes.
authentic. And so, you know, that's great, but being aware of our motivation for doing something. Is it about something we really want to do, or is it just about making someone else happy?
So, what about, because I think even that question right there is you're going to get a different answer during the holidays than you would any other time of, tyically. I think
Right.
this can be a time of massive people pleasing just because it's like, all right, it's one time a year. Maybe for those who aren't close with family, they're like, I just got to bang this thing out. I just got to go get it over with. So do you think that's different than people pleasing? I just want to clarify for people that are listening.
Yeah. Um, I think it is a tricky
Yeah,
situation, isn't
right.
it? And I think you kind of have to just ask yourself the
Hmm.
question. You know, it's like there's no short answer for that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's no rule. You have to just really be honest with yourself. I mean, yeah, there's certain things that are one time a year things. Like I always give my clients the example, like my husband is a total introvert. Like he would totally live in the middle of nowhere, you know, like me and the kid, and like it would
Yeah.
just be us. But when it comes to, you know, my best friend has a holiday party next week, and I'm like, we're going,
Hmm.
you know, because it's once a year. It's really important to
Yeah.
me. But like in terms of the boundaries of our relationship, like I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert. Like there are maybe three things that I ask him to go to for the whole
Right.
year, right? So yeah, it's an obligation for him. It's totally going to make him uncomfortable. I know that. And so for me, like I know that he's going to go because it helps
Yeah.
me and it blesses me.
Mm.
And so then it becomes about like, yeah, I'm making this sacrifice because I love this person and it's not something I would necessarily choose to
Right.
do. Like he would not sign up for this on
Nope.
his own, you know. But it's a choice he makes because he loves me and he knows I enjoy it so
Yeah.
much, right? So yeah, this time of year definitely brings some differences in terms of meeting expectations or kind of going out of our
Yes.
way or being a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Um, but um, you know, that's why I only ask him to go to like three things a
Right.
year because it's like just it's our compromise, right?
Exactly.
Um, but with other things, I think setting up limits for yourself. You know, so yeah, maybe you need to go to a company
Right.
holiday party where there's going to be alcohol and you're a recovering alcoholic. So go for an hour or two and make an appearance, say hi to everybody, shake
Hmm.
hands, do an activity or whatever, and then go
Right.
home.
Right.
You know, you don't have to make a big deal out of it, right? Um, I think too, expectations for the holidays are such a huge issue for
Totally.
everybody, whether you're an addict or not. Like we're always comparing it to, it was magical when we were little,
Mm,
right? It's just everything was like big and exciting. And, then we've got all these Christmas movies on, or, just whatever it is. Like we have all of these ideas about how it's supposed to
totally.
be. And reality very rarely matches up
Right.
to that. And then we have this disappointment or this pressure or whatever it is. And so the way that I see it is that particularly recovery, recovery is all about self
Mm,
awareness. And so when you're in recovery, it's about being more mindful about why am I doing this thing and what does it really matter to
yes.
me? And so when it comes to the holidays, we have this opportunity to redefine our traditions, to redefine what's
Yeah.
meaningful, to be realistic about what's really important to us and what's really
Yeah.
achievable and why does it even matter? Like, does it really matter that you have a 12-course meal sitting out? Like, or is it more important to you that you spend a lot of time with
Yeah.
your family? Because if you're in the kitchen prepping a 12-course meal, you're not going to be spending time with your
Right.
family. So if that's really what you care about, order
Totally.
out. You
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Like really do the thing that matters most
Mm,
to you. And recovery allows you to take the space to say, you know what? I really don't care about this. I've only been doing it because it was a
totally.
tradition and maybe it's time to reevaluate our
I
traditions.
love that. Giving you and your family and your spouse or whoever your family is, right? The
Right.
permission to redefine what's important, to redefine traditions, to redefine rituals. Oh, that is so inspiring. And like I mean, you said it a few minutes ago where it's like, it kind of feels like this stuff is simple. It is, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's easy to do. It's simple
Nope.
steps, but it's like, man, this is going to take courage and this is going to take risk.
Mhm.
Um, but as you said before,
And it's going to mean that not everyone's going to be happy with you all the
totally.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because it's hard to break traditions.
Mm,
It's hard, especially, I mean, I'm in my 30s, but my grandma's still here. So like my grandma has traditions that I was raised in that, now we all live in different areas. So like we're not as close as we used to
yeah.
physically close, right? So we don't have quite the same options in terms of celebrating our family's
Right.
traditions. So like that's hard for my grandma. I know she's probably gonna watch this later. So hi, grandma.
I love it.
It's hard, but that's why it's important to kind of both grieve and
Mm,
celebrate. To acknowledge like, hey, this was a really important part of our life for a long time, and we're so glad for what it
right.
was. Let's do something
Yes.
new, right? So we can grieve and celebrate and start a new tradition all at the same time, as long as we're talking about it.
Exactly.
You know?
And taking care of ourselves throughout the process, like you said, as a couple and
Yes.
as an individual. Oh, gosh. Heather, this has been amazing. Time flies when we are having fun, and I feel like I could talk to you and listen to you talk about this for days. But I just want to thank you so much for being here with us today. And if there's any message that you're like, if you guys hear and take away anything from this today, what do you want kind of your takeaway to be for the holidays, surviving the holidays? To totally put you on the spot.
I know. I'm like, ooh, totally on the spot. I would go back to really being authentic.
Mhm.
Why are you doing the thing that you're doing? Why does it really matter? And if it doesn't, change it.
Yeah.
You know, find out what's important to
Hmm.
you and create a way to celebrate in a way that's meaningful to
Love it.
you.
Oh, thank you so much, Heather. And you guys that are watching and listening, we're going to have all of Heather's contact information on here. And she said she wrote a blog. So I'm definitely going to be making sure you guys have access to that as well, because Heather is just, as you can tell, she's a wealth of knowledge. She's way passionate about this work. I mean, you can tell, Heather, from just listening to you speak, this is your jam. So again, I just want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Talk to you later. Bye, Heather. All right, you guys, I hope that was so helpful for you. I know every time I have my experts on, I learn so much personally, and I take it into my own work. I take it into my own relationships. So we didn't have a lot of questions come through unless I just missed them. But I just want to thank you guys. Oh, Nicole, hi. I'm just now seeing your comments. I just want to thank everyone for joining us live today. For those of you that are watching the replay, thank you so much. And share this. Share this with someone who may be struggling with addiction, who you might think is struggling with addiction, or who you know is married to, or in relationship, or is a sister or a brother of. someone who is struggling with addiction, and maybe, just maybe, they can create an entirely new experience of the holidays this year. All right, you guys, again, I'm Robyn D'Angelo. So grateful to have you guys joining us and for another edition of the Surviving the Holidays Midday Love Break. I can't wait to see you guys next week. I have a whole brand new topic, another expert just for you guys. And I just wish you all big love, mwah, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.